All right, guys, welcome to We Want Answers. We got a really controversial show tonight. We're going to be joined by author Micah Dank. He is the author of Into the Rabbit Hole series. He is a astrotheologist, which I guess you can describe as somebody who decodes the Bible with astrology. He's going to give us his take on the Bible and how he's decoded it the last 12 years of his life. So it's going to be a very interesting show. Might be controversial, but just keep your mind open and I hope you enjoy it. We're going to be joined by John, our normal co-host,
Hey
and
guys.
also Rob, our college intern. He's going to be joining the We Want Answers crew. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Let's jump right into it. Hey, Micah Dank, thank you for joining us today. Astrotheology is what we're going to be talking about. Micah's got a different outlook on the Bible, and he's going to share it with us today. Micah, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I've been better, but thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. So, like, the only people that give me love for my work are like conspiracy people. To be honest with you, conspiracy shows, podcasts, things of that nature. They're the only ones that are really taking into what I've figured out.
And we're going to hear about what you figured out. I'm very interested about your take on all this. We may not agree on everything, but I'm certainly open to hear everything and excited to at that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So what is astrotheology for people that might be wondering?
Well, it's basically the star poetry of the heavens. What we consider to be scripture would be just basically star poetry. It's finding the astrological keys that are left behind in the holy text. That's what an astrotheologist does. And I can show you and explain to you how they are basically encoded astrological texts.
Awesome.
Let's have
How,
it.
how does one get into this?
I mean, I don't know, like when you started getting into conspiracies, right? There was that,
Sure.
like, you're pulled in all different rabbit holes and directions, but then like one speaks to you louder than the rest, and you kind of
Sure.
make it your baby. It's the same kind of thing. That's what I basically did. I saw this, I loved it, so I made it my thing.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, yeah, let's get into your presentation. We're all super curious here. We got John who's going to be on here with us and
What's up,
Rob
everybody?
also. Um, so yeah, Amika, blow our minds here.
All right. So, do you want to put up the presentation real quick?
Yep, it is now up.
Oh, so I can't see what you're looking at.
So basically, I just have your presentation, the screen right up on. That's the full screen. Is the white box you have there?
All right. Beautiful.
Yep. So I'll basically be switching between that and the camera, the split screen cameras. So yeah, I will have it up mostly the whole time,
Okay. In
unless
history.
we're talking. Then I'll switch to the split screen. But yeah, kick it off, man.
Okay. You guys see the screen that says the biggest hidden secret in all of human history?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to start now. So if you go to the next screen, before I explain what this is all about, I'm going to explain what this is all about so you guys don't have to ask later.
Sure. Let's hear it.
But if you go to the second screen, or the second slide, what is the point of all this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The
I'm not
ancients
seeing
didn't
it.
have any of that. They had sundials. Yeah, it would be the second page
There
on
we
the
go.
PowerPoint.
There we go.
Okay. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretation for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow on the bull and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive, the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all this movement and make stories up about them and eventually pass them down to their children, then them to their children. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down, and they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism in the Old Testament and to Christians in the New Testament. And then I'm going to read you this quote over and over again, but it's from John Dominic Crissant, and it says, "My point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally." And that's what you're going to find with it. So if you go to slide number, hold on. I see. Okay. All right. Go to slide number 16, the zodiac wheel.
Okay.
Yep. Once you put it on the screen, it'll come on the screen for us. So
Once I put it on the screen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we see it as you're scrolling. Mhm.
I just
Okay,
have
good.
your screen share up on our broadcast.
Anyway, so this is the zodiac wheel, and this is how it's supposed to look. Cancer's at the top and Capricorn's at the bottom. This is how the zodiac wheel is supposed to look. Now, the astrotheology goes back to something called the Lascaux Caves, which is 17,000 to 40,000 years ago. Here you have an article that says the Lascaux cave paintings 17,000 years ago. Here's another one that says world's oldest cave paintings show human understood complex astronomy 40,000 years ago. This time frame is going to be important. So what these teens did is they went into the back of a cave that was mostly undiscovered, and they went to the back of it. When they reached the back of it, they saw things like this. You see the many faces of the lion on the right. You see the two bulls on the left. And they quickly realized that the bull is Taurus and the lion is Leo in the zodiac. So what they did was they brought in some people, and they brought in some people who carbon dated these engravings. And it came out to about 17,000 years old. Now, a lot of religious people will sit there and tell you that carbon-14 dating is inaccurate, and they're actually right about that, halfway, kind of. Carbon-14 dating is accurate up to 50,000 years, but beyond that, it's not. So obviously, when they get into the millions or hundreds of millions, they're just guessing. But it is accurate up to 50,000 years, and this came out to 17,000 years. So when they did that, they brought in a astrologer with a computer, and what they did was they rewound the sky back in the system to show what it looked like 17,000 years ago. And when they printed out the constellations and put them over the animals they linked up with, they all matched up. So they all knew this too. In fact, this particular cave was a man-made cave, and only on June 21st, the summer solstice, did light snip into it and bounce off the back of the cave. So there's questions you can ask in the Bible: how Jesus was able to heal the blind, how he walked on water, how he turned water into wine, why he had 12 disciples, why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, why he was dead for 3 days, why is his birthday on December 25th. All this is astrology, and I'm going to show that to you. So Genesis 1:14 says, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years." And indeed, that's what they do. Now, each zodiac sign is called a house, or an era, an eon, or a sign. There are many words for it. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to teach you guys the 12 signs of the zodiac, and I'm going to give you keywords for all of them, and then we're going to go hunting in holy text for them. And it's going to show you some crazy patterns, I promise you. We'll start with Aquarius. The first sign I talk about is Aquarius, which is the man with the water pitcher pouring it out. It goes back to the story of Zeus and the young boy. So the story of Aquarius is like this. Zeus saw a 14-year-old blonde young boy on Earth, and he wanted him on Mount Olympus or in heaven with him, but the boy's father wouldn't let him go. He eventually convinces the boy's father to let him go by bribing him with a whole bunch of materialistic stuff. The boy goes up to heaven, and in heaven, or in Mount Olympus, he's serving all the gods out of this water pitcher something called ambrosia, which is the nectar of the gods. And he gets fed up with doing this one day after countless days and months and years of doing this. So he goes to the side of heaven with the water pitcher and he pours it out. This is the flooding of the earth in the Greek story. This is where the Greeks get their flood story from. Anyway, so long story short, he pours all the ambrosia out. It floods the earth. Zeus gets pissed at him, but in a moment of self-reflection, unlike Zeus, because you knew Zeus to be kind of a crabby, sexual, just a deviant god, he had a moment of self-reflection, and instead of punishing this boy, he immortalizes him as the constellation Aquarius. So the key words for Aquarius would be son of man or man, because Aquarius is the sign of the man, whereas Virgo is the sign of the woman. Baptism, because this is how you baptize someone. Water pitcher, because this is a water pitcher. Because fountain, because all the Greek fountains were made like this. Stream, river, pond, lake, ocean, sea, these are water bodies. Now, Aquarius in astrology is an air sign, but because it has water in this picture, they used it to include water. Well, water is also Pisces, which is the mutable sign of the two fish in the water. So all the water examples connect. So the way they're talking about Aquarius water or Pisces water, to know the difference, has to do with the patterns that it's going to make in the heavens, which I will show you. This is crazy stuff, guys, I promise. But basically, for Aquarius, they would say something like, he drank from the water pitcher, and that would be Aquarius. Here, it would be like the sea was rising, because Pisces would be the sea, the two fish in the water, all the animals in the water, just like the fish. So then Aries is the ram, and in Aries you have March 21st, which is the spring equinox. It's a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night. It's also the Passover, or the passing over of the sun over the equator and back on its way to its height in the summer solstice. In the Jewish Passover, it's when the angel of death is going to pass over all the Jewish households, and any households that don't have the lamb, which is a baby ram, by the way, on its doorpost, letting them know that they're the people of Aries, the ram. The Jews are the people of Aries, the ram. That's why they blow the ram's horn during the holidays. Now in Christianity, the Passover is changed again, and it's called the resurrection of God's Son. So whenever you hear ram, lamb, shepherd, or ram's horn, you're talking about Aries. Taurus is the bull. And when you look at the sky and you see Taurus during the season where it's supposed to be, you know that you need to put the plow on the bull so that you can plant the seeds so you can harvest in Virgo and Libra. So whenever you hear bull, ox, calf, or cow being the female bull, you're talking about Taurus. Gemini is the twins. It's the story of Castor and Pollux Troy, whose sister was Helen of Troy. This is the story of Achilles. This is another Greek story. So whenever you hear twins or brothers, they're talking about Gemini. Cancer is the crab, and it's a sideways moving creature. So what the sun does, starting on December 25th, is it's going to rise a degree on its axis. On December 26th, it's going to rise an additional degree. The 27th, an additional degree. Every day it's going to keep doing this. The days are getting longer, the nights are getting shorter. It's going to do this 1 degree every single day till it hits June 21st. That is the summer solstice in Cancer. What it's going to do, just like the crab that walks sideways, what it's going to do for 3 days after it hits June 21st is it's not going to rise an additional degree or drop an additional degree. It's going to walk sideways for 3 days, staying at that same degree. And then on June 25th, it's going to drop a degree. And then on June 26th, it's going to drop a degree. And every day it's going to keep dropping a degree now. And now the nights are getting longer, the days are getting shorter. You're going to do the same thing at the winter solstice, which we'll get to. So whenever you hear crab or beetle, because in the ancient Egyptian times, it was the Cancer, the crab was the scarab. So that's Cancer. Leo is the king. What's up?
No, I just said okay.
Okay. So Leo is the king, the lion, the king of the jungle. The ruling planet of Leo is actually the sun. So whenever you hear lion, lioness, or cub, you're talking about Leo. Virgo is the virgin in the sky holding the wheat stalk. Remember before when we said that you plant in Taurus? Well, the virgins would go and cultivate the wheat in Virgo in order to make the bread for the year. So whenever you hear virgin, wheat, grain, seed, barley, corn, grainy things that are harvested in September, in August, September, that would be what is harvested then. And for Libra is the justice. It's the scales, it's the balance, it's the just one. The reason it's the justice is because it judges God's son. as it passes over the fall equinox and begins its descent into winter, into cold, into death. The Jews always celebrate their New Year around the fall equinox, which is coming up again this month. Last year, the Jewish New Year was on September 15th. That's in the middle of Virgo. But 8 days after the Jewish New Year, which is September 23rd last year, that's the first day of Libra. 8 days after the Jewish New Year, there's a day called Yom Kippur, where all the Jews go and fast and pray to be kept in the Book of Life. It's the Day of Judgment. Well, of course, the Day of Judgment has to happen in Libra. The judge, the scales, all this. But we get into that more. Scorpio is the scorpion. He is the betrayer. When a scorpion bites you, it leaves an imprint in your skin that looks like a pair of lips. And it's why the mafia has the kiss of death. That's where they get that from. And it's why Jesus was betrayed by Judas with a kiss. Because he could have betrayed him in any other way, but he chose to betray him with a kiss. So the sun is judged in Libra, and it's betrayed in Scorpio. Finally, in Sagittarius, this is where the bow and the arrow shoot the sun and inflict further punishment on the sun. This is where the sun dies. Why? Because on December 21st, the sun is at its lowest point. It cannot rise any lower. It was considered dead. The ancients would look out into the sky on December 21st, and the sun wouldn't crack the horizon, so they said the sun was dead. It's the dead of winter, and it remains at that lowest level for 3 days, walking sideways, just like the crab, which is why Jesus was dead for 3 days. When on December 25th, or the birth of God's Son, it rises another degree back up and starts to make its way back up to the top. So this is the story that they're telling you throughout all this. So whenever you hear horse, bow and arrow, spear, and horseman, that's Sagittarius. And then finally you have Capricorn, who's the goat, because, well, the goats like to climb the mountain. And if I open this up, the little mountain goat is at the bottom. Capricorn's the goat. Now, if you see a little sun or something crawling along to the left of this zodiac wheel going up the signs until you get to Cancer, which is the summer, it starts the great climb up the mountain in Capricorn, just like the goats do. And those are the 12 signs, guys. So do you guys have any questions before I just literally dive right into this stuff?
No. Thanks for breaking that down, the zodiac stuff, so we can all better understand that.
Okay, you want me to just keep going?
Keep ripping, brother. Yeah.
All right. Names for Jesus. These are all names that he's given in church, but they're all astrological in meaning. But people don't seem to realize it. We just went over the 12 signs. So when Jesus, or the sun, is in Capricorn, he's the scapegoat of Israel, the Capricorn, the goat. When the sun is in the man sign Aquarius, he is the son of man. When the sun, or Jesus, is in Pisces, the two fish, he's the fisher of men, and it's why he feeds the masses with 2 fish. When the sun is in Aries, he is called the Lamb of God, or the Good Shepherd. Cancer, the scarab. St. Augustine called Jesus the good beetle. He's the Lion of Judah, also known as Leo the Lion. The lady holding the stalk of wheat, Virgo. He's born of a virgin, and he's called the bread of life. Libra, the scales of justice. He's known as the just one. And then he's betrayed in Scorpio. He dies in Sagittarius on December 21st. It's also why he's worshipped on the Sunday. But guys, check this out real quick. Look at this picture of Jesus on the left that I showed for you guys, okay? The sun is always behind him because he represents the sun. It's not a halo. It's the sun because he always, I'm going to show it to you. The 2 fingers up that he's doing right here are an ancient Kemetic peace sign. See the separation sign, the peace, John Lennon peace sign? That's actually a V for victory. That's a Churchill war sign. The V for peace is a war sign. The 2 fingers connected together is a peace sign, which is why whenever you see like Buddha or Baphomet or Jesus or any of these figures doing this, they're telling you they come peaceful. Now, the white Jesus picture is actually a guy named Caesar Borgia, who was the bastard son of Pope Alexander VI. The printing press came out 80 years prior, so they mass-produced his face. And Caesar Borgia was a nasty dude. He killed his brother, he slept with his sister, and his father was terrible too. The crown of
that's
thorns.
the image of Jesus. That
What's
guy,
up?
the guy you just described is the image of Jesus that we know today.
Caesar Borgia. Yeah, I'm going to show you that.
Okay.
It was literally his face. This is all documented.
No, it's just I didn't know that. That's fucking wild to me.
Yeah, it's all documented.
I believe
He's
it.
one of the Borgia Illuminati families. In fact, Rodrigo Borgia, Pope Alexander VI, bought his way to the papacy and then started making all these changes. But yeah, that stereotypical white Jesus face
Yeah.
is actually Caesar Borgia.
Wow.
So when everybody's talking about, the Shroud of Turin being real, I'm like, yeah, but when was it discovered? Why would it have Caesar Borgia's face on it?
Is there other photos of or like paintings of Caesar Borgia?
Yeah, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. No, wait. The crown of thorns wrapped around the heart on the outside, and the heart is always outside the body, represents the rays of the sun. The heart outside the body represents the toroidal field or the torus field. Look, these are just pictures of Jesus you pull. The sun's behind his head, the sun. And the second one, that's a Knights Templar cross. The sun, the sun. They're always showing you the heart outside, the fingers. They're showing you the same thing. They do it in baby Jesus pictures too. Look at this. You see the North Star Polaris in every single one of these pictures. You see the sun behind Jesus in all the pictures because he is the sun. They're trying to show you this. But we're going to get into it. So, what does Lord mean? Lord is a title from the 13th century around Chaucer and Canterbury Tales times, which means loaf giver. That's who is in charge of divvying up the bread. Now, that word comes from the Old English 13th century word lard. What is Christ? Christos is a title. It's not Mary Christ, Joseph Christ, Jesus Christ. Christ is Christos, as written in the New Testament, was originally read in Greek and written. Christos means anointed one or oil. So follow me here. Christ is Lord in a different set of circumstances, whereas Christos or oil is lard in a different set of circumstances. They play etymological word games with you guys, which you have to get to the bottom of. Understanding the root of a word is the most important thing you guys could understand, because they got you guys tripping over Illuminati hand symbols, and you guys have to understand that. I talk about that there's nothing to fear about those things. Those things are a joke. But this, the electromagnetic field of the heart, this is what the toroidal field looks like. You're in the center, and it's an apple, and it goes around you. It circumvents you 6 feet, which is why the elites wanted to keep everyone 6 feet apart. That's where that came from when they were trying to keep everybody separate. It's because you can't interact with someone electromagnetically. Like if I came up behind one of you dudes, and you knew that I was there, it's not because you're psychic. It's because I broke the electromagnetic field. This is what they look like when they're meeting with someone. So they wanted to keep you isolated from all this, to keep you anxious. That's why they did this. That's where this random 6 weeks, 6 feet thing came from. Caesar Borgia on the right, early pictures of Jesus on the left. This is where they got his facial features, his face, and his just the template for his face, basically, is where they got it from. That was Caesar Borgia. Now, before the Shroud of Turin was discovered in 525 AD, almost all paintings and drawings of Jesus were shown as a beardless young man. So, guys, I'm going to start hurling. Am I able to work you guys into questions about Scripture? Do you guys know Scripture?
Not like you might think. Yeah.
Rob probably more than any of us, but I'm not.
That's why I asked Rob to come. Yeah.
Okay.
We should, based on all the Catholic school we went to, but
Right.
you know,
But
how it
this
goes.
yeah, in the space on Monday, this will be some good stuff to go back and forth with people.
Right. So, guys, if I were to ask you, pride comes before the fall, what does that mean?
Get in here, Rob.
Help us out here.
Pride. You said pride before the fall.
Yeah.
I would say one. You would think it's one is showing, some sort of, like a boastful person. You always fall from a higher spot, I guess.
Right. That's what they want. That's what they tell you. But astrologically, guys, do you know what a group of lions is called?
Yes, pride.
Okay, so pride is a group of lions. Pride is the lion. The lion is Leo. Leo is in July and August. that also comes before the fall, but the season of the fall, right? You see the double entendre?
Yeah.
So it's all kind of stuff like this. So Micah 5:2, my namesake. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come from me one who will be ruler over Israel, whose origins are from ancient times. However, in Hebrew, Bethlehem is a combination of two words, Bet, which means house, and Lechem, which means bread. So the house of bread. The house of bread, the house is Virgo, and that's the lady with the wheat stalk. That's the house of bread, Virgo. So what this is really saying is that he will come from Bethlehem. The Savior will come from a virgin. That's encoded in there with that. You have to understand Hebrew too, guys. Most people that come on are just these like Christ bros that don't read the original language. So in Deuteronomy 32, this one's kind of cool. He gave them honey from the cliffs and olive oil from the rocky ground. He gave his people butter from the herd and milk from the flock. He gave them lambs and goats. They had the best rams from Bashan and the finest wheat. They drank the best wine made from the juice of red grapes. But Jeshurun became fat and kicked like a bull. So he gave them honey. I didn't mention this, but in the sign Cancer, there's a group of stars. It's an asterism. It's a closely knit group of stars called the Beehive Cluster, and that's where the honey would come from. The Beehive Cluster is in Cancer. Cancer is the summer solstice, the beginning of summer. So that's the honey. Now the milk comes from the Milky Way galaxy. The center of the Milky Way galaxy is in Sagittarius, right? That's the beginning of winter. That's the milk. So your land from summer to winter on the zodiac is your land of milk and honey. It's not a place on Earth. Okay, it's a celestial occurrence that happens to depict exactly one half of the year. The olive oil we mentioned is Libra. That's when it's taken. He gave them lambs. That's Aries. The goat is Capricorn. The ram is Aries. The wheat is Virgo. The wine and the red grapes, that's Libra. And the bull is Taurus. There's 10 signs in this one passage. And it's all like this, guys. It doesn't matter what I go to. The Mount of Olives. Jesus led his disciples to the Mount of Olives after his last Passover so he could teach them a few more things, pray, then wait for Judas to betray him. While walking to the Mount of Olives, he gave the parable of the true vine. So, guys, follow me on the zodiac wheel on the left, okay?
Okay.
Passover takes place in Aries. So find Aries. That's all the way on the left, right?
Yep.
But what does he do now? He walks to Mount of Olives. Well, I told you that olives are grasped and oiled and broken down in Libra. So how do you get from Aries to Libra? You either walk along the zodiac or you cut
Straight
across.
across. Yeah.
These two happen to be opposing signs. Now you're in Libra. While you're in Libra, you're waiting for the betrayal. Who's the betrayer? That's Scorpio, the next sign. But you're not getting betrayed yet. They're very clear about that. He's in Libra. He gives the parable of the true vine, which is grapes or wine or has to do with Libra. So there are these specific jump patterns that tell a story, guys, is what I'm trying to show you. The key words that make up all these zodiac signs and the story of the sun as it goes through the 12 of them, that's what this is all about. Now check this out. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. So I get in touch. I talk to people all the time about this, but the firmament is not a dome over a flat Earth. I tell people this all the time. It's not. And I'm going to show you what it is on this. This is the zodiac wheel, okay? You see the just dividing signs between the signs? Dividing lines?
Mm-hmm.
Those dividing lines don't actually exist. I'm not like looking outside in the sky and I see them in the heavens. That's not what we're doing here. What these do is they represent a specific time period. It's the last 3 days of a sign and the first 3 days of the next sign where the energies still blend into one another. These are called cusps. You've heard them as handover dates. That's what they are. They're cusps. And this has to do with the firmament, because that's what these firmament are. Now that you know that this is what the firmament is, check this out. And God made the firmament and divided the waters, which were under the firmament. Pisces right here is under the firmament, and the waters above. Aquarius and Pisces, the dividing line between the two signs. This is what it's talking about. It's not talking about protecting Earth from a flood in the heavens. It's not doing that. But we can even do this, guys. We could check out Revelation. Check this out. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. The first living creature was like a lion. That's Leo. The second was like an ox. That's Taurus. The third had a face like a man. That's Aquarius. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Now, in astrology, the scorpion is the belly-crawling creature. It's the lowest form of life on Earth. The first thing that God does to the serpent in the Garden of Eden after the deception is take away his legs, make him slither on his belly. It's a punishment. People, when they do Santo de la Muerte in Mexico, men dress up in suits and crawl on their belly or their knees to the church. However, its evolved form, also called the ascendant, is the eagle. So the eagle becomes Scorpio. So now you have Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Those are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac.
Hey, Micah.
So what I mean by that is that you have 12 signs. You have 4 seasons, so you have 3 signs in each season. The first sign in the season is known as the cardinal sign, which is why there are cardinals in church.
Hey, Micah.
Yeah.
Just quickly, just in case, I know some people do believe, and I've heard this, that there's a 13th zodiac sign.
Right.
Can you address that real quick? Is it just is it real? Is it?
Yeah. So the 13th sign. The 13th sign is the sign of Ophiuchus, and it has to do with
It's a guy with like a serpent, right? I think
it's a guy holding a serpent.
picture.
Yeah. It's a 13th sign that has to do with real sign astrology. Tropical astrology is 12 signs broken up into 30 degrees. Each is the same size. Whereas Vedic sidereal astrology, that includes Ophiuchus, they work on real size astrology. So Scorpio is only 6 days long. Ophiuchus isn't long at all.
Yeah.
Virgo's like a month and a half.
Yeah,
but
it's
just a different type of astrology. If I'm in a car and I'm leaving a place, and you're in a car and you're leaving the place too, and we're going to the same party, our GPSs might take us 2 separate directions, but we end up at the same place. That's what these 2 different kinds of astrology are.
Okay.
It's 2 of the same thing. They're just.
I just wanted to bring up that 13th because I know people will say, "Hey, isn't there a 13th?" I mean.
Right.
Thanks for addressing that.
Okay, so check it out. Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. But check this out. Leo and Aquarius are opposing signs. And Taurus and Scorpio or the eagle are opposing signs. So is it more likely, guys? The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Is there a 4-headed animal in Revelation coming to ruin us? Or is it just making this little pattern in the zodiac of the 4 signs? Which is more realistic? You guys see it, right?
I mean, I just see the cross patterns.
Yeah. These are the 4 fixed signs. They say it here too, Ezekiel 10:14. Each of the cherubim had 4 faces. One face was that of a cherub, the second the face of a human being, the third the face of a lion, and the fourth the face of an eagle. But even in Revelation 12, ready? A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. A woman clothed with the sun is the sun clothed in Virgo. It's just a metaphor for the sun being in Virgo. If the sun is in Virgo, the moon will be at her feet. That makes sense because there's a 12 zodiac signs, 24-hour a day clock. So the sun spends 2 hours a day in each sign. If the sun is still in Virgo, that is between 4 and 6 p.m. The sun is out. So if the sun is still out, the moon will be at her feet. It's just telling you the time of day. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous dragon. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to earth. The constellation Draco is the dragon on the left. And if you look at the tail, its tail goes from Aries to Sagittarius, which is 4/12 of the signs, or 1/3 of the stars out of the sky. This is all star poetry, guys. This is what I'm trying to show you guys. You know, there's people that are going to believe these are really going to be out there in heaven, and they're going to have a hard time letting that go, but this is all explained. Revelation 7:4. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. There are 7 chakras. The root has 4 petals, the sacral has 6. The solar plexus has 10. The heart has 12, and the throat has 16, which equals 48. The third eye chakra is represented by 96 and only has 2 petals because it's 2 times as powerful as the lower chakras. So 48 times 2 is 96. The crown chakra is 1,000 times more powerful than the lower 6 chakras. When you add the lower 6, you get 96 plus 48 equals 144. And you times that by 1,000 and you get your 144,000. When you've activated all your chakras, that is when you get to go see God. Is that more of a spiritual take on this, something a little more realistic than a sealed number of humans ever from the tribes of Israel that are going to go to heaven?
I would
Yeah.
say, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting take on it for sure.
Interesting
I'm
take.
just trying to listen. I'm just trying to make people
Lost, but-
think. I'm just trying to make people think, to be honest with
Well,
you.
it's definitely making me
and
think.
You're doing a hell of a job of it, man. I mean, you got me thinking. I'm like, whoa, okay, these are some wild connections that you've made.
Mhm.
And like, how did you make these connections? Are these all things you thought of yourself, or they thought?
I am a student of Jordan Maxwell and Santos Bonacci. I don't know if you guys know those names, but they basically pioneered this field.
Okay.
There's not a ton of people in it, but I'm just. I mean, it's a simple. So what I did was
You're
I went,
decoding.
huh?
You're basically decoding things, like
Basically, what I've done is I've gone to Ptolemy in 150 AD came out with a list of 48 constellations they knew about at the time. I took those and I mapped out where they were in the heavens, and I mapped out what the key words for them would be.
Okay.
And I've just put it to about 75 different ancient holy texts right now.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's basically what I've done. I've done everything from the Sumerians to the Babylonians to the Egyptians.
One pretty prominent object in the sky in the New Testament is the star, the Magi fowl to baby Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain that? Does that have a?
I go at the end of this PowerPoint. I do go over the what do you call it? The manger the manger scene with Jesus.
Okay,
I explain that.
That's coming.
Gotcha.
So check this out real quick, okay? You have Aries to Libra. Oh, let me read this. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. This is your 13th sign right here. So behold, I send you forth as a sheep in the midst of wolves. Well, the sheep are Aries, and the wolf is the constellation Lupus, which borders Libra. So Aries to Libra, that's a pattern. They will always make these patterns, guys. It's not only just that it will point out these stars. It'll make patterns connecting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 signs together, going across. It's wild. But if you look at this, Aries and Libra are opposing signs, so that's a connection. But the serpent is Ophiuchus, and Ophiuchus sits between Scorpio and Sagittarius. The dove is one of the 8 evolved forms of Scorpio, along with the eagle and the phoenix mentioned earlier. Scorpio, Libra, and Ophiuchus are 3 signs in a row. So just out of this one little, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. So be as wise as serpent and as harmless as doves. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 patterns. Okay, and I'm just using a simple keyword cipher, guys, that I could teach anyone in 10 minutes. So I've given an example of astrotheology in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. I've been accused of cherry picking verses from the Bible to prove a point. Let's take a much longer passage and see if we can decode it as well. You guys familiar with the story of Job?
A little bit. If you could go over it for everybody again, just real quick.
I will. So the story of Job is basically this dude has everything he could want. He's God's most faithful servant. And the devil goes up to him, or Satan goes up to him and says, if you start taking things away from him, he won't love you anymore. And God was like, I'll take that bet. So he starts losing things little by little, but he never curses God out. And at one point, he's actually sitting down on the stone, has absolutely nothing, boils all over, sores, and he's asking God, and then God replies to him. And what I'm going to read you is God's reply. Now, remember when I'm reading this to you guys, that the book of Job is actually the oldest book in the Bible. It is the oldest book in the Bible by far. It currently sits in the 16th position, I believe, in the Bible, but this book is older than all the other books. It was put together at a council in 100 AD, which I'll go into. But anyway, God answers him, so I'm going to read it to you. Job 38:32. The first thing God says is, can you lead forth the Mazaroth? The word Mazaroth has been intentionally, for all of history, left untranslated because they don't want you to know what it means. The Mazaroth literally translates to the zodiac.
Okay.
Mazaroth over time becomes Mazalot, which survives in Judaism today as Mazel Tov, which is good for stars. You know how old Mazel Tov is as a word. You can only imagine how old Mazaroth is. They don't want you to know this. That's why they left it untranslated. So what is the Lord's challenge to Job? He says, can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt? Those are now open celestial metaphors, right? You could see those. Then he says, can you bring forth the constellation in their season or lead out the bear with its cubs? The constellations are the zodiac above, and the bear and its cubs are Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and Ursa Minor, part of the Big Dipper. Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens? Well, that's Aquarius. That's what he's doing. Do you hunt the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunger of the lions? That's Leo. Who provides food for the raven? That's the constellation Corvus, which means raven and borders on Virgo. Do you watch where the doe bears her fawn? Mariga, meaning deer, is located in Orion. Who let the wild donkey go free? That's Acellus Borealis, meaning donkey, and is located in Cancer. Will the wild ox consent to serve you? That's Taurus. The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully. That's Lambda Achille or Al-Thaliman, which means two ostriches in Arabic. Do you give the horse its strength? So right there, because they said horse, we know it's Sagittarius because that's the only zodiac sign with a horse, but how can we prove it further? It laughs at fear, afraid of nothing. It does not shy away from the sword. The quiver, there it is right there. When they mention the quiver, what is the quiver? That sits alongside the horse that holds the arrows for the guy with the bow and arrow on the horse, just like Sagittarius, to take it. Finally says, does the eagle soar at your command and build its nest on high? Aquila is the Latin name for eagle and is a constellation a few degrees above the celestial equator. Finally says, can you pull Leviathan with a fish hook, which is the fish god, which is Pisces. This is all encoded astrology, guys. I'm trying to show you. All of it. Psalm 104. He sends forth springs in their valleys. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and wine which makes man's heart glad, so that he may make his face glisten with oil. The high mountains are for the wild goats. He made the moon for the seasons. The sun knows the place of its setting. The young lions roar after their prey. The springs are Aquarius. The wild donkeys are Acellus Borealis, which are in Cancer. That's the donkey. Cattle is Taurus the bull. The wine is Libra. The oil is Libra. The wild goats are Capricorn. The moon for the seasons, and the sun knows the place of its setting, is openly talking about the sun and the moon. The lions roar after their prey. I mean, guys, it's all there. But now let's go back to this real quick. Questions at the beginning. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. What I'm telling you is that he is an anthropomorphized allegory of the sun going through the zodiac, going through the 12 steps of the zodiac, and going through the hero's journey. How Jesus was able to heal the blind. Well, the story in the Bible says that he went up to a man, or the man went up to him and said, I can't see. Jesus put some like mud on his fingers and touched the guy's eyes, and then when it cleared up, he was able to see. But the sun does the same thing too, right? Because when the sun goes down, we're blind. And it's only when the sun comes up in the morning and touches our eyes that we're able to see.
God.
All right? How he walked on water. with sun and Christos, right? Jesus supposedly walked on water, but you ever gone fishing, guys? You ever see the sun walk on water? It does the same thing. So you have Jesus walking on the sun walking on the sun, and his last name is Christos, right? That means anointed one. That means holy oil. Does oil also walk on water?
Ah,
That's a triple entendre right there. This is what I'm talking about. How he turned water into a wine. This is not a parlor trick. This is a process. So the reason God is considered a man and Mother Earth is considered a woman for all of eternity has to do with one thing, and it has to do with God's sacred fluid, the rain. The word is shemen in Hebrew. We get the word semen from it. So what happens is God's sacred fluid comes down and impregnates Mother Earth. And then from her, all the food, trees, land, everything grows. Right? So you plant the grape seeds in Taurus, as above, so below. You see the plow, you see the bull in the sky, you put the plow on the bull on earth, plant the grapes, and then it's April showers bring May flowers. Right? That's Taurus. And then it rains and it rains and it rains, and then you end up picking the grapes and turning it into wine at the end. That's how you turn God's water into wine. It's a process. This is what they're telling you. Why he had 12 disciples. We went over that. We went over the fact that Judas would be Scorpio because he's the betrayer. We went over the fact, or we didn't go over the fact that John the Baptist would be Aquarius, going around baptizing people. Thomas Didymus would be Gemini, the twins. Tom, or Taom in Hebrew, means twin. And Didymus in Greek means twin. So it's the twin, which is Gemini. Each one of these signs, guys, each one of these disciples has a way to link them to one of these zodiac signs that I'm trying to teach you. So, now this sign, let me just see here a sec. Hold on. So we went over the disciples part. Why he was betrayed with a kiss by Judas, we went over that. Why he was dead for 3 days, we went over that. Why is his birthday December 25th? It has to be. Now, you're going to get a lot of Christians that are going to tell me his birth date is on 9/11 or the Feast of the Tabernacles or Sukkot, or he was born during Passover, or whatever is more comfortable for your understanding of the story is on you. But when it comes down to it, this is the science behind all these stories that everybody's been enjoying for thousands of years. So this science only works for people in the northern hemisphere, and there is a reason for that. The Egyptians, Jews, and Muslims are all based out of the northern hemisphere. For example, June 21st, the summer solstice is actually the winter solstice in Australia and New Zealand, much of South Africa and South America. So it doesn't just stop there. It's not just random passages in the Bible that can be decoded this way. We're going to go through the entire book of Matthew to show how deep this runs. And I think after I'm done with the book of Matthew, I'm going to take a pause and I'll let you guys catch up and tell me your thoughts and everything. So if you guys want me to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, keep ripping, man. This is definitely some really interesting stuff that you're connecting some wild dots here that are just kind of undeniable.
Thank you.
it's overwhelming, but I'm following it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, guys. I've been through it when I discovered this. I thought I was going absolutely apeshit, batshit crazy. I thought I was gonna lose it, but no. This is why I want to get out. The only people giving me platforms are the conspiracy people.
And I hate that name.
Well, it's true.
I know. No, it is true, but it's the people with their eyes open the most, I would like to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, my single point here, guys, is we know that they lie to you in the media. They know they lie to you at news. Politicians lie. TV shows are all lies. Everything is just, we just know we're getting screwed left, right, and center. Everything is a lie. Why would religion be any different?
Yeah, you make a valid point. I mean, I don't know. This is something that's been going on since the beginning of time.
Not at this level.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you the book of Matthew, guys. You still have this up?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, let me show you this real quick. So, guys, walk with me on this because there's going to be a lot of info, but you'll follow. Now, what I've done is I've put the zodiac wheel on the left, and I've put a little red ring as to where we are in the story, and I'm going to explain why we're in certain locations in the story. So Matthew 3:2, repent of your sins and turn to God, for the kingdom of heaven is near. Each gospel begins at one of the four major points on the zodiac. That's the solstices and the equinox, and ends at one of them as well. When they connect, they form a cross. This is the cross of God's Son that Jesus carries all the way to his death in winter. This is the only sign the sun rules over. The kingdom of heaven is Leo, whose ruling planet is the sun. This is the only sign that the sun rules over. The closest of the 4 points of the solstices and equinox is June 21st in Cancer. This is where the gospel starts. Then this is the firmament between Cancer and Leo. It's the beginning of the kingdom. There's a saying in the Bible that says the firmament shows God's handiwork. Now, the next passage, Matthew 3:4. This is wild, guys. This is gonna do something to you. Okay, the next passage, Matthew 3:4. John's clothes were woven from coarse camel hair, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. For food, he ate locusts and wild honey. If we take the most famous drawing of a man, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and superimpose it onto the zodiac, we can make sense of it. And it doesn't have to be that. It could be a picture of anyone. I just happened to use this one. But the Cancer being in the head is why he eats the wild honey. In Cancer, there's a star cluster called the beehive cluster. Bees produce honey. The mouth is in Cancer, so the mouth will eat the honey. Leviticus 11, what's clean and unclean to eat. All flying insects that walk on all fours are to be regarded as unclean by you. There are, however, some flying insects that walk on all fours you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of those you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. There it is, the locust. So guys, when they're trying to do this, sell you pounds of grasshoppers and tell you to eat it, this is where they're getting it from. It's biblical.
It's biblical stuff. There's more.
Damn.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, we were in Leo, right? And then we were in Cancer for the honey. Now we're in Gemini. A little lower down on the body is the clothes made out of camel hair. In Gemini, there's a constellation called Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. It's short for, or it's Camelos, which is camel, and Pardalis, which means leopard. And the original, the name for the giraffe originally was the camel leopard, because they looked at it and they were like, this is the most ridiculous looking animal I've ever seen. So that's why they called it Camelopardalis. But that's why the clothes are made out of camel hair, because of Camelopardalis, which is in Gemini. So we went from Leo to Cancer to Gemini. So now we have a story in 3 parts in a row. Now we're in Taurus. That's 4 parts in a row. Moving a little lower on the body, and you'll get his midsection, which is where you would wear a belt. Taurus represents the bull, and the female is the cow, which is where you would get the leather. Regarding the belt, Orion's belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. So next would be the baptism. Now, how are we going to go from the beginning of Leo to a water sign to signify the baptism? You would go across the zodiac. Cross signs, as they are known, are the signs opposite location. For example, Aries and Libra are cross signs. This is very important. The sign's 2 most important signs are its neighboring sign and its cross sign. Here we see how it makes a leap from one firmament to the other. The man with the water pitcher in Aquarius is personified as John the Baptist with the water. It's important to note, too, that John the Baptist and Jesus are always exactly 6 months apart. When you think about the fact that Jesus is born on December 25th, okay, and rises a degree a day, then that must mean that John the Baptist is born on June 24th and decreases a degree a day. This is why in John 3:30, John says, he must increase, but I must decrease. And it's also why St. John's Day is exactly 6 months to the day of the birthday of Jesus. So the next story is the temptation of Jesus. So we're going back to the Cancer Leo firmament of July 24th. Well, this is simple. He's tempted for 40 days, right? So count 40 days. What is 40 days from July 24th to September 2nd? That's right in the middle of Virgo. The lady with the wheat stalk, right? Well, what's the next message? What does the devil say? Matthew 4:3. If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. Here we see mention of bread, which tells you that the sun is in Virgo. The next passage, Matthew 5:17 and 22. I did not come to abolish the law, and if you are even angry with someone, you are subject to judgment. This takes place at the firmament of Virgo and Libra, right? So then Matthew 7:15-16. Beware of false prophets who come disguised as harmless sheep. And can you pick grapes from the thorn bushes? The sheep are the ram in Aries, and the grapes are in Libra. Once again, these are opposing signs. Moving along, Matthew 13. Later that same day, Jesus left the house and sat beside the lake. The story now moves from Libra to the barrier between Aquarius and Pisces as he is right beside the lake or the two water signs. Its cross sign is the Leo-Virgo firmament. As we are across from Virgo, the wheat stains the grains. Is it ironic that the next parables are the wheat and the weeds, the mustard seed, and the yeast? Moving right along, next is the fishing net parable. So we just cross back again one more time to the Aquarius Pisces. So we can touch Pisces so we can talk about the fish. This is basically like if I were to give you guys, I don't know, like 30 words. And I said, I want you to use all 30 of these words in writing me a giant grand story many, many times.
Okay.
The patterns that it shows in the heavens, it explains where everything is. It's wild.
This is wild.
Gemini is the sign of two men, technically twins. However, there's just a short mention of brothers in the next passage. He's just the carpenter's son, and we know Mary and his brothers, James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas. This ends at the firmament of Gemini Cancer. So we knew he was talking about twins, right? So he's in Gemini. But if you're at the firmament of Gemini Cancer and you take that across, that's the firmament of Sagittarius Capricorn. That's December 21st. That's the day of death. That's the winter solstice. How do we know this? What is the very next passage? It's the death of John the Baptist. Do you guys see how this works?
Yeah, it's just some wild connections, dude. I mean, I don't know
Cyclical.
how you even like made these
Yep.
connections. Blows my
Micah,
mind.
have you ever? I mean, I've never read the Quran, but have you ever tried this with the Quran to see if it lines
I've
up?
done this with the Quran too. If we're probably gonna have to break my PowerPoint presentation down into two sessions, if that's all right with you, Dave,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I'm only on slide 77 and I'm about to end in a few.
Okay.
But guys, check this out real quick, because the next is the death of John the Baptist. So what the zodiac is it's its own story. And then what you do is you pick out of it and make a new story using it. And that's what all our ancient holy texts have ever been. That's what they basically do.
Okay.
Let's take this sentence, which sounds like it could be in the Bible, but isn't. If I say to you, the rulers were divided between war and love, it split the land in half. You could read that as a literal translation, where the ruling planet of Aries is Mars, who's the god of war, and the ruling planet of Libra is Venus, who is the goddess of love. There is your war and love. If you connect it, it literally splits the land or the zodiac in half. It's really easy to write your own like this. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but you guys could encode the same way that they encoded in all these ancient holy texts. There's really nothing much to it. Matthew 4:17 and 32. But we only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Guys, the bread is Virgo, the lady with the wheat stalk, and the fish, the 2 fish, by the way, are Pisces, the 2 fish that are already 2 fish. It's why he feeds the masses with 2 fish. Pisces and Virgo are opposing signs. This is the cross of God's Son. This is the solstices and the equinoxes. You see why he carries the cross to his death?
Man.
Okay.
Check this out. We were just in Virgo, and now next is Libra, which is law, wine, and oil, remember? What stories do we get now? The story of the temple tax, the unforgiving debtor, divorce and marriage, all 3 law, and the parable of the vineyard worker. Well, there's the wine. It's all there in the story. Next is Scorpio, the betrayer. This is where Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss. And then here is where Jesus is crucified on the cross. And I got this quote here that says, astrology is a language. If you understand this language, the sky speaks to you. So I'll read this to you guys one more time and then I'll take a break. What is the point of all this? We take for granted we have calendars, clocks, watches, weathermen. The ancients didn't have any of that. They had sundials. In the Bible, they worked on dream interpretation for harvest. They had to know things. They needed to know Taurus is when you put the plow in the bowl and plant as above, so below. The Bible is an encoded farmer's almanac and was the knowledge of staying alive the most important thing. They would look at the stars and see all the movement and make up the stories about them and eventually pass them down to their children, then them to their children. Eventually, they learned how to write and wrote them down. And they evolved from Sumerian to Babylonian to Egyptian to Judaism, then to the Christians in the New Testament. This even went to the Quran, absolutely. And my point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. And if you guys were to go to my website, debunkmywork.com, I have all my social media. I have my YouTube channel. I have a way to email me at the bottom. I have my book series that I've written about all this stuff that you can get. Pretty much everything is on that website.
All right, guys, that was a lot of information to unpack. So we are going to do a part 2 version of this also, because he's got a lot more information to unload about his decoding of the Bible. I know that was a lot to take in. Hopefully got you thinking. John, how did you feel about that?
It was pretty overwhelming, but I'll tell you, I respect all the work over the years, and it actually made me want to read the Bible more than I ever have. So yeah, I can't wait for part 2 and the space, honestly.
Yeah, so we are going to be doing a part 2. That's going to be Thursday night. That will be dropping. And then Monday night, we're around 9 or 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing a spaces. So if you have any questions for Micah, you can come into the space and he can address those questions, straight up with you. So just keep an open mind and keep an eye out for part 2. You can also find more of Micah's work at his Twitter handle, real Mr. Dank, or you can go to his website at debunkmywork.com. And I believe he's also on YouTube. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Keep an eye out for part 2 in the space on next Monday. But thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Peace.